Shalom, little Yisrael. Welcome to the Fivefold of Old, where we will be completing part 2 of Saved by a Donkey, The Adventures of Balaam. Let's jump right in. The next morning, King Balak led Balaam to a high place where the people of Moab worshiping false gods. The high places were platforms built on the top of a hill or mountain. This is where This is where the people sacrificed animals to their false gods like Baal. From the top of the hill, Balaam could see the 12 tribes of Israel camped below. He said to the king, "Build me 7 altars, then burn 7 bulls and 7 rams." The king did as Balaam asked. He built 7 stone altars and burned 7 bulls and rams as a sacrifice to God. When the sacrifice was over, Balaam said to the king, "Stand by your burned offering while I see if my God will show me what to do." The king clapped his hands together. "Soon the Israelites will be gone," he said gleefully. Now far away, Balaam knelt down and spoke to God. I have built 7 altars and burned a bull and a ram on each. Do you have a message for the king?" God answered, saying, "Yes, go and speak the words I tell you to say." There we go. Balaam rose to his feet. He walked over to the king, who was standing by the burned sacrifice. Stretching out his arms, he said, "My God says, I cannot curse what I have blessed. The people of Israel are blessed more than other nations." King Balak's mouth dropped open. This was not the message he wanted to hear. "What are you saying?" he cried. He stamped his feet and pointed angrily at Balaam. "I brought you here to curse my enemies, and now you've blessed them." "Listen," said Balaam. "There is nothing I can do. I told you I could say only what God wanted me to say." The king frowned and scratched his beard. He wasn't ready to give up. "Come with me to a different place where you can see the Israelites," he said. "Perhaps you can curse them from there." And we have, did you know? A true prophet of God will say only what God wants him to say. Deuteronomy 18. This is the picture. He's very mad, Mr. King Balak. All right. With his robes flapping wildly behind him, King Balak marched Balaam to the top of a higher hill. Again, he built 7 stone altars and burned a bull and a ram on each altar. When the king had made the sacrifice, Balaam said to him, "Stand by your burnt offering while I go and meet my God." The king nodded, but he was growing impatient. He wanted the Israelites gone as soon as possible. Once again, God spoke to Balaam. "Go back to Balak and speak only as I tell you." Balaam glanced nervously at the king. He featured the king did not want to hear another message from God. He feared the king did not want to hear another message from God. Didn't think that made sense that way. But Balaam obeyed God. He went over to the king and said, My God says, I am not like men. I do not change my mind. I will not change my blessing on the people of Israel. If I promise something, I will do it. I brought the Israelites out of Egypt and made them strong. I will not curse them. Here he is, bowing down to Yah, praying. What the king started at Balaam. What? The king stared at Balaam in disbelief. If you cannot curse the Israelites, at least don't bless them. Balaam shrugged his shoulders and sighed. I only have the power to say what God wants me to say, he said. King Balak was as mad as a firecracker. Then next morning he marched Balaam to the top of another hill, high above the clouds. Perhaps your God will let you curse the Israelites from here, he said. Once again, the king built 7 stone altars, and burnt a bull and a ram on each altar. Seeing that it pleased God to bless the Israelites, Balaam looked over to the plains of Moab where the Israelites were camped and said, How lovely are the tents of Israel! They will defeat their enemies. Blessed be everyone who blesses Israel. Cursed be everyone who curses Israel. Oop, I missed the picture. Those are all tents from the 12 tribes of Israel. Pretty cool, huh? All right. Oh, pardon me. King Balak was furious. He thumped his fist on the ground. I told you to curse the Israelites, but you have blessed them 3 times. I was going to give you great riches, but your God has stopped you from getting the reward. Now go home. Balaam took a deep breath. Listen to me, he said. I know your messengers, that even if you... I told your messengers that even if you gave me great riches, I could not disobey Yah. The God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob will go home, but first I have another warning for him. The king was not sure if he wanted to hear what Balaam had to say. He feared the prophet had more bad news, but it was too late. A Messiah will come out of Israel and destroy their enemies. Continued Balaam, including your people in the land of Moab. The king gasped and covered his ears. This was not the message he wanted to hear. What are you saying? He shouted. Stop! I don't want to hear any more. Just go home. Balaam still wanted the great riches the king had promised. Before he went home, he came up with a plan to harm the Israelites. He knew that the Israelites were blessed as long as they continued to obey God. If they sinned and disobeyed God's instructions, they would bring curses upon themselves. If you want to conquer the Israelites, said Balaam, invite the men to spend time with the Moabite and Midianite women. They will introduce the men to their gods and will forget all about God's instructions. The king's eyes lit up. He liked that idea. He knew the men of Israel would like the women of Canaan. Sure enough, the Israelite men began spending time with the women. These women had their own customs and gods, and the Israelites soon forgot about God's instructions to marry these women, or to not marry these women. The Israelites soon forgot about God's instructions not to marry these women or copy their ways. Did you know Moses lived among the Midianites for 40 years before he returned to Egypt to free the Hebrews? And you could find that in the book of Acts 29. And here's the picture of Balaam's evil plan. So evil. God was furious with the Israelites. My people are disobeying me and worshiping idols, he thundered. To teach them a lesson, he sent a plague amongst the people who had done this, and many died. God had not finished with the Midianites either. He was angry. They had tricked his people into disobeying him. He said to Moses, treat the Midianites as your enemies and attack them. Moses chose 1,000 men from each of the 12 tribes of Israel and led them into battle. With them, they took the Ark of the Covenant, a special gold box for the stone tablets on which God had written his commandments. Shofars blared, drums boomed. Even though there were more Midianites than Israelites, it didn't take long for the Israelites to destroy their enemies and win the battle. God is the same yesterday, today, and forever. He promises to bless his children who obey his instructions and follow his ways. And he always keeps his promises. The end. Well, I hope you enjoyed that today, little Israel. We're going to wrap it up for today. And Yah bless you and keep you. Yah make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. Yah lift up his countenance upon you and give you shalom. Yevrechecha Yahweh veishmerecha. Ya'er Yahweh panav alecha. Vikuneka visa Yahweh panav alecha. Ve'aser elecha shalom.